Welcome back to my channel, Pocket Change Coins. If you're excited about finding hidden gems in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we're going to uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're focusing on a classic American coin, the 1964 1-cent coin, a coin that may look ordinary at first glance, but is actually highly sought after in the world of coin collecting. You might be surprised to learn that a single 1964 penny could be worth far more than its face value. Stick around as we dive into the details of this amazing coin and reveal why it's one of the most valuable pennies you could find in your collection. Let's start by taking a trip back to 1964. It was a year full of historical moments, from the Civil Rights Act being signed into law to the height of the space race, but it was also an important year in the history of U.S. coinage. The 1964 Lincoln cent is significant for a couple of reasons. First, it was the final year that copper was used as the primary metal in the composition of the penny. In 1965, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-plated zinc composition due to rising copper prices, making the 1964 penny one of the last to feature the familiar solid copper design. This change in composition marks the 1964 penny as a true historical artifact, making it even more valuable to collectors. The 1964 Lincoln 1-cent coin features the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, on the obverse. The reverse side of the coin showcases the famous Lincoln Memorial, which had been used since 1959. The memorial is a symbol of the strength and unity of the United States, and it's beautifully depicted on the reverse of this classic penny. So, what makes the 1964 penny so valuable? While many of these coins were produced in large quantities, the rarity and condition of certain 1964 pennies have contributed to their increased worth in recent years. The first factor is the composition change. Since the 1964 penny is made of solid copper, it holds more value in terms of the metal content compared to modern pennies, which are only plated with copper. As copper prices rise, so does the intrinsic value of this coin. However, the value of the 1964 penny doesn't end with just its copper content. The 1964 penny also has a history of minting errors that make it especially valuable. In the world of coin collecting, minting errors are highly prized because they are rare, often unique, and reflect a flaw in the production process. Some of the most sought-after 1964 pennies are those with double die errors. A double die penny occurs when the coin is struck twice during the minting process, causing parts of the design, usually the date, lettering, or other elements, to appear doubled. These errors are subtle but can be spotted by careful inspection. If you find a 1964 penny with a double die error, especially one where the date is affected, you might be holding on to a highly valuable collector's item. Another sought-after variety of the 1964 penny includes those with off-center strikes or misaligned dies. These errors occur when the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, causing the design to be shifted to one side of the coin. These misstruck pennies are rare and highly collectible, often commanding higher prices in the marketplace. Another reason for the value of the 1964 penny is its condition. As with any coin, the grade or condition plays a critical role in determining its worth. Coins that have been in circulation for decades often show signs of wear, including scratches, discoloration, or dents. However, coins that have been well preserved or remain in mint condition are much more valuable. A 1964 penny that has been carefully stored, free from damage, and in near-perfect condition can be worth much more than a typical, worn penny. Uncirculated 1964 pennies in gem or MS65 plus condition are especially valuable. Now, let's get to the moment you've all been waiting for. Just how much is the 1964 1-cent coin really worth? While a regular 1964 penny in decent condition might not fetch much more than its face value or a few dollars, there's one thing you should know: a 1964 penny with a double die error, off-center strike, or in mint condition can easily be worth a staggering $135,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $135,000. That's the potential value of a 1964 penny if it has one of the rare minting errors or is in exceptional condition. Can you imagine finding a penny worth that much? For collectors, it's an exciting possibility, and for anyone who has a stash of old pennies, it's definitely worth checking through them to see if you've got a hidden gem in your collection. Whether you're new to coin collecting or a seasoned numismatist, the 1964 1-cent coin offers a fantastic opportunity to discover rare and valuable finds. So, next time you come across a 1964 penny, make sure to examine it carefully. You never know if you've got one of those rare double die errors, an off-center strike, or simply a well-preserved coin that could bring you a significant amount of money. Second rare coin, we're talking about the 1961 cent coin, a true classic of US currency with a fascinating history and potential for some incredible value. If you're new to coin collecting or you've been collecting for years, the 1960 penny is one that could surprise you. Keep watching to find out why this little coin could be worth a lot more than its face value. First, let's take a step back and look at the context of the 1961 cent coin. This coin was minted during a pivotal time in US history. In 1960, the country was in the middle of a cultural and political shift, with the civil rights movement gaining momentum and the space race heating up. But on a more personal level, this coin represents a snapshot of daily life in the early 1960s. The 1960 penny features the timeless image of Abraham Lincoln, one of the most revered figures in American history. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln portrait has graced the obverse of the penny since 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. The reverse side of the 1960 penny showcases the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of the nation's strength and unity. The design had been in use since 1959, and it remains one of the most iconic representations of American values. These features, the portrait of Lincoln and the memorial, were meant to embody the country's commitment to democracy, liberty, and the enduring legacy of its leaders. On the surface, this might seem like just another standard penny, but when you dive deeper, you'll see that there's more to this coin than meets the EYE.SO. Why is the 1960 penny considered special in the world of coin collecting? The main reason collectors go after the 1961 cent coin is because of its unique history and the potential for minting errors. Coin collectors love to find errors in their coins because they are rare, often one-of-a-kind pieces that stand out from the regular circulation coins. The 1960 penny has a particularly interesting variety when it comes to these minting errors, making it highly collectible. There's a specific error you'll want to look out for, and it's the 1960 small date variety. Now, what is a small date? Well, in 1960, the US Mint released two different versions of the penny, the small date and the large date. The difference between the two is subtle but important. On the small date version, the 1960 is slightly smaller in size and the numbers are positioned differently compared to the large date version. This seemingly minor difference is what makes the small date pennies so desirable among collectors. The small date pennies were minted in much lower numbers compared to the large date coins, which makes them rare and valuable today, but the rarity of the 1960 small date penny doesn't end there. If you manage to find one in mint condition, or better yet, with a double die error, your penny could be worth much more than you ever imagined. The double die error occurs when the coin is struck twice during the minting process, causing the design to appear doubled. This is especially noticeable on the date and liberty inscriptions on the coin. If you find a 1960 small date penny with a double die error, it could be worth thousands of dollars, certainly more than the penny's face value. Aside from the small date and double die errors, another factor that contributes to the value of the 1960 penny is its condition. Like any coin, the grade or state of preservation plays a massive role in determining its value. Coins that have been in circulation for years tend to show wear, such as scratches, dents, and discoloration. However, if a 1960 penny has been carefully stored or remains in mint condition, it can fetch a significantly higher price. Coins that are graded as MS-65 or higher, meaning they have no visible wear and retain their original luster, are especially sought after. Now, let's talk about the value of the 1961 cent coin. You might be wondering, how much could a 1960 penny really be worth? Well, a regular 1960 penny might only be worth a few cents, but if you come across one of the small date pennies, particularly one in excellent condition, or if you find one with a minting error like the double die variety, you could be sitting on a small fortune. So, How much could a single 1960 penny be worth? Drumroll, please. A 1960 small date penny, especially one in excellent uncirculated condition or with a rare double die error, can be worth up to $135,000. Yes, you heard that right, $135,000. Imagine finding a penny worth that much. It's hard to believe that a coin worth just 1 cent could be worth so much, but that's the magic of coin collecting. Rarity, condition, and errors can transform a simple coin into a high-value collectible. If you happen to have any 1960 pennies in your collection, it's worth inspecting them carefully. Look for the small date version and check for any double die errors. Even if the coin is not in perfect condition, it could still fetch a decent price if it's a rare variety. Don't forget, the more carefully preserved your coin is, the more it's worth in the market. So, whether you're an experienced coin collector or someone just starting out, the 1961 cent coin offers an incredible opportunity to find something valuable that's hidden in plain sight. Who knows, the next time you sift through your old change or check out your coin collection, you might find a hidden gem worth $135,000. Keep an eye out for those rare small date pennies and minting errors, and you could be the next lucky collector to discover a coin that could change your life. Third expensive coin, we've got a coin that may seem common at first, but could be sitting on an impressive amount of value. It's the 1971 1 cent coin, and if you thought all pennies were created equal, think again. This seemingly regular penny could be worth a whole lot more than just 1 cent. Let's start by taking a look at the 1971 penny and why it stands out among other coins from that era. The 1971 1 cent coin was minted in a year full of changes for the U.S. economy, with inflation rising and the country beginning to experience some major shifts in its social and political landscape. This was also a time when the U.S. Mint was still producing coins in the familiar copper composition, before the later switch to a copper-plated zinc composition in 1982. These pennies were minted in large quantities, so on the surface, the 1971 penny doesn't seem like a rare or highly valuable coin. However, what makes the 1971 D penny stand out is the mint mark, specifically the D mint mark. For collectors, the 1971 D penny is interesting because it was produced at the Denver Mint, and while it wasn't an especially rare year for production, it is important to note that there were some specific varieties of this penny that make it valuable. One of the main reasons collectors are drawn to the 1971 D penny is due to the existence of varieties and minting errors that were produced during this time. One of the most notable varieties is the 1971 D double die. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once during the minting process, resulting in a noticeable doubling effect on the lettering and design elements, particularly on the date and liberty inscriptions on the obverse. Double die errors are some of the most highly sought-after mistakes in the coin collecting world, and finding one on a 1971 D penny is incredibly exciting for collectors. But why does the double die variety matter so much? Well, the thing about minting errors like this is that they are extremely rare, and once a coin has been identified as a double die error, it increases its value exponentially. These types of mistakes are relatively uncommon, and the collectors who are able to find them are often willing to pay top dollar for the chance to own a piece of history. Another thing that adds to the potential value of the 1971 D penny is its condition. Like any coin, the grade or state of preservation plays a huge role in determining its worth. Coins that have been well preserved over time, free from damage and wear, are far more valuable than those that have been circulated heavily. Even a small scratch or dent can significantly reduce a coin's value, especially for something as rare and valuable as a double die 1971 D penny. In fact, a 1971 D penny that has been well preserved and features a double die error could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. It's not just the errors that increase its worth, though. Pennies from earlier years in near-perfect or uncirculated condition can also fetch high prices, as they are harder to come by in the market. So, let's get to the exciting part. How much could a 1971 D 1 cent coin be worth if you happen to find a double die error or if it's in mint condition? Hold on to your hats. If you discover a 1971 D penny with one of these sought-after errors, it could be worth as much as $120,000. Yes, you read that correctly. $120,000. That's the kind of value a double die error penny can reach. It's incredible to think that something as simple as a penny could carry such a high price tag, but that's the magic of coin collecting. Rare minting mistakes, well-preserved specimens, and historical significance all combine to make these coins incredibly valuable. So, if you've got a jar full of old pennies or you happen to come across a 1971 penny while out on a coin hunt, be sure to take a close look at it. Inspect it carefully for any signs of a double die error or any unusual characteristics. And, of course, the better condition your penny is in, the more likely it is to be worth a small fortune. A coin that looks like it's been well taken care of, free from scratches and other damage, could be your ticket to a significant payout. In the world of coin collecting, every penny tells a story. It's incredible to think that a simple coin from 1971, something many people overlook as just pocket change, could be worth so much. That's the beauty of the hobby, the thrill of discovery and the possibility of finding something worth far more than you could ever imagine. Especially, I'm talking about the 1975 1-cent coin. Now, many of us have seen this coin countless times, as it's been circulating for decades, but could your 1975 penny actually be worth more than just its face value? You might be surprised to learn that this seemingly ordinary penny could fetch an impressive price tag, especially if it's in the right condition or has some rare characteristics. Let's begin by exploring the background of the 1975 penny. The year 1975 was a pivotal moment in U.S. history. The country was in the midst of an economic shift, facing challenges like inflation and unemployment. In terms of coinage, 1975 marked a significant time for the U.S. Mint, and the 1-cent coin was still being produced in its classic copper form, prior to the introduction of copper-plated zinc pennies later in the 1980s. The 1975 1-cent coin was struck at the Denver Mint, as denoted by the D mint mark, which is important when determining the coin's potential value. At first glance, the 1975 penny might appear to be a standard coin, but there's more to it than meets the eye. The value of this penny lies largely in the condition it's in and a few rare characteristics that collectors are always on the lookout for. For most coins, especially those that have been in circulation for many years, wear and tear are inevitable. You'll often find them scratched, discolored, or faded, which significantly lowers their value. However, if you happen to find a 1975 penny that's been well preserved, or better yet, one that has been carefully stored in a collection, the story changes entirely. Coin collectors are always on the lookout for coins that have survived the test of time in exceptional condition. A 1975 penny in mint or near mint condition can be a real find. These coins are particularly desirable because they're becoming increasingly harder to come by. The more well-preserved the coin, the more likely it is to fetch a higher price on the market. Now, let's dive into something even more exciting, the potential for minting errors on the 1975 penny. As any seasoned collector will tell you, one of the most thrilling aspects of the hobby is discovering rare minting errors. These can include anything from doubled designs to off-center strikes. And it's the minting errors that make the 1975 penny particularly intriguing for collectors. The 1975 penny is known for some notable errors, most commonly the double die error. In this case, the die used to strike the coin was improperly aligned, causing the design on the coin to appear twice, giving it a double look. The double die error is most noticeable in the date and the Liberty inscriptions. This kind of mistake happens when the coin's die is not perfectly aligned during the minting process, resulting in a doubling of the design. These errors are considered highly valuable because they're quite rare and make the coin stand out from the rest of the regular circulation pennies. If you happen to stumble upon a 1975 penny with a double die error, especially one in excellent condition, you could be sitting on a small fortune. These kinds of errors can greatly increase the value of a coin. But even if your 1975 penny doesn't feature a minting error, if it's in pristine condition or has some unique characteristics, it can still command a solid price. As we all know, collectors are always willing to pay top dollar for something unique. The 1975 penny is becoming harder to find in mint condition or with a rare error, so if you're lucky enough to own one, you could have something extremely valuable on your hands. Coins that are rare in both variety and condition are often placed in the highest tiers of the collector's market, and that's where the value really starts to climb. So, how much could a 1975 D penny be worth if you find it in great condition or with a minting error? Here's the exciting part: the value of this coin can reach up to $100,000. Yes, you heard me right, $100,000 for a single 1975 D penny with the right error or in exceptional condition. That's the kind of value this coin can hold, especially among serious coin collectors who are constantly on the hunt for these rare finds. Imagine the excitement of finding a coin like this tucked away in your collection or stashed in a jar of loose change. The 1975 D penny could be sitting there, just waiting to be discovered as a hidden treasure. Whether it's the double die error, the mint condition, or just its rarity in general, this penny could be worth far more than you ever thought possible. So, the next time you're rummaging through your change or sorting through a collection of old pennies, take a moment to look closely at your 1975 D 1-cent coin. It could very well be worth a lot more than just 1 cent. If you find that it's a rare variety or in exceptional condition, you might just have a valuable piece of history in your hands. And who knows? It could even make you $100,000 richer. Next coin, we're talking about the 1979 D 1-cent coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that could actually be worth a small fortune. So, grab your magnifying glass, because we're diving into the details of this penny and what makes it so valuable. When you think of a 1979 penny, you might not immediately imagine something worth a lot of money. After all, this coin was minted over 40 years ago, and it's not exactly considered rare at first glance. But here's the catch: despite the fact that it was produced in large quantities, there are certain factors that can turn a regular 1979 D penny into a highly valuable treasure. Whether it's in exceptional condition or features a rare minting error, this coin can be worth a lot more than you think. Let's start with the basics. The 1979 D penny was minted at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the D mint mark, which is essential in identifying the coin's origin. While the 1979 penny may seem like a regular, run-of-the-mill coin to most people, there are certain characteristics that make the 1979 D variety stand out. One of the things that collectors are particularly interested in is the condition of the coin. As with any piece of currency, the grade or state of preservation plays a huge role in determining its value. In general, coins that have been well preserved and remain in mint condition are much more valuable than those that have been heavily circulated or damaged over time. So, if you have a 1979 D penny that looks nearly as good as the day it was minted, you could be in luck. Coins in uncirculated condition are always in demand, and they can command higher prices because of their rarity. But let's talk about something even more exciting: the minting errors. When it comes to rare and valuable coins, one of the most sought-after things by collectors is the minting error. And the 1979 D penny has its fair share of these coveted mistakes. Minting errors occur when the coin is struck incorrectly during production, often resulting in unique features that make the coin stand out from the rest. These errors could range from double dies, where the coin's design is struck more than once, to off-center strikes, where the coin's design is misaligned. Among the most notable errors on the 1979 D penny is the double die variety. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin is improperly aligned, causing a slight doubling of the design elements, such as the date or the word Liberty. The double die error on a 1979 D penny is especially valuable because it creates a striking visual effect that's very noticeable and desirable among collectors. If you happen to find a 1979 D penny with a double die error, you could be sitting on a goldmine. These coins are highly sought after, and depending on their condition, they can be worth thousands of dollars more than a standard 1979 D penny. The rarity of these minting mistakes, combined with the growing demand from collectors, makes these coins a great investment for anyone who is serious about numismatics. In addition to the double die error, there are other varieties of the 1979 D penny that collectors are always on the lookout for. The 1979 D penny could also have other subtle differences, like a small date or large date variation, which further increases its value to certain collectors who specialize in those kinds of distinctions. Coins like these are considered varieties rather than errors, but they're still valuable because they are much less common than the standard design. Now, let's get to the exciting part: the value of the 1979 D penny. So, how much could a 1979 D penny actually be worth? If you've got one of these rare coins in excellent condition or with a minting error, you could be looking at a pretty substantial payday. The 1979 D double die penny, in particular, has been known to fetch huge amounts at auctions, with some selling for as much as $90,000, yes, you heard that right, $90,000. For a single 1979 D penny. That's the kind of value you could expect if your penny is one of those rare finds that has escaped the wear and tear of time, or if it features a minting error like a double die. While the value can fluctuate depending on the condition and rarity of the coin, this just goes to show how much a seemingly ordinary penny can be worth when you have the right one. So, next time you're sorting through your loose change or digging through an old jar of pennies, make sure to pay extra attention to your 1979 D pennies. Even though it might seem like a small, insignificant coin, it could be worth a lot more than you think. And remember, the key to finding a valuable coin is to inspect it closely for minting errors, check its condition, and understand what makes it special. Last unique coin, we're diving into a seemingly ordinary coin that could be hiding some serious value, the United States 1-cent coin from 1981. At first glance, it may look like just another penny, but believe it or not, this particular coin is a highly sought-after collector's item. So, if you've got one in your collection or sitting in a jar somewhere, you might want to pay close attention to the details we're about to cover. This could be your ticket to a pretty surprising windfall. The 1981 1-cent coin, also known as the penny, was minted during a time of economic transition in the United States. Ronald Reagan had just been inaugurated as president, and the country was recovering from the inflationary pressures of the 1970s. The U.S. Mint produced millions of these pennies in 1981, and while they were primarily used for everyday transactions, it's important to remember that not all coins are created equal. Some coins, depending on their rarity, condition, or unique characteristics, can be worth far more than their face value. What makes the 1981 penny particularly interesting to collectors is its minting history and rarity. Unlike many other coins, which can have specific design changes or notable errors that make them valuable, the 1981 penny stands out because of its condition and the occasional minting mistake that can make it highly valuable. In fact, these coins were produced in such high numbers that most people probably don't give them a second thought, but this is where the magic happens. Now, let's get into what can make a 1981 penny valuable. Like most collectible coins, the condition of the coin plays a huge role in determining its value. Coins that are in uncirculated condition, meaning they've never been used in daily transactions and are free from damage, scratches, or wear, are much more valuable than those that have been heavily circulated. If you have a 1981 penny that looks as good as the day it was minted, you've already got a coin that could potentially fetch a higher price. But wait, it gets even more interesting. One of the key things that collectors are always on the lookout for when it comes to the 1981 penny is minting errors. Over the years, some of these pennies have surfaced with mistakes made during the minting process, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or die cracks. These types of errors are highly desirable to collectors because they make the coin stand out from the rest. If you happen to find a 1981 penny with any of these errors, you could be sitting on a rare treasure. For instance, double die pennies occur when a coin is struck by the die multiple times, creating a blurry or doubled image on the design. This type of error is particularly exciting for collectors, as it creates a distinct visual effect that is both noticeable and valuable. If you find a 1981 penny with a double die, it could be worth much more than the regular 1981 penny, which is typically worth only its face value of 1 cent. Another error that can increase the value of your 1981 penny is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not perfectly aligned during the minting process, causing the design to be shifted to one side. These types of coins are rare and highly collectible, as they are unique and can't be reproduced by regular minting processes. But what about the overall rarity of the 1981 penny? While the U.S. Mint produced millions of these coins, only a small percentage of them have managed to survive in near-perfect condition. Over time, many of these pennies have been damaged, scratched, or worn down due to everyday use. However, finding one in mint state, meaning it has no visible wear and retains its original luster, is a rare find, which is exactly what makes it so valuable to collectors. So, how much can a 1981 penny actually be worth? If you have an uncirculated 1981 penny in pristine condition or a rare minting error penny, you could be looking at a coin worth far more than just 1 cent. In fact, depending on its condition and whether it features any minting errors, a 1981 penny can fetch as much as $65,000, that's right, $65,000 for a single 1981 penny. You might be wondering how such a small and seemingly ordinary coin could be worth that much, but it all comes down to rarity, condition, and the right features. If you've got a minted error or an uncirculated penny from this year, you might be holding on to a piece of history, and a significant chunk of change. So, what should you do if you think you've got one of these rare 1981 pennies? Start by carefully inspecting the coin for any minting errors or unusual characteristics. Check the condition. If it's in excellent, uncirculated state, that alone could make it more valuable. And if you find a double die or off-center strike, you might want to get the coin appraised by a professional numismatist to determine its full value. The 1981 penny may seem like a simple, everyday coin, but as you've learned today, it has the potential to be worth a lot more than its face value. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, don't overlook your pennies. They might be worth more than you think. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about rare and valuable coins, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another exciting discovery. You never know when you might find your own $65,000 penny. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting.